people always ask, like, when they want to get asked like good questions about like us working together and like being friends for so long, like, do you guys ever fight? And let me tell you, we just had a fight. I would call it a fight. Woo, it was, I mean.
You called it a fight?
On a 0 to 10 scale of intensity, what would you say that what I'm calling a fight before we came in here was? I have a number in my head.
10 being the time that we slapped each other and almost got into a physical fight?
10 being if we were fighting and then it did get physical, which that's never happened.
I'd say it got to a 6.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking it could have been a 7. It's like, I didn't think that the podcast was in jeopardy, but that was part of it. It was on the table, but I didn't think it was imminent.
I didn't feel like it was about to like go off the rails.
So why don't I think we should share. You know, people want to know about us fighting.
Do you want me to give my perspective?
It's very fresh. I'm gonna even let you go first.
So I'm not gonna give
maybe strategic.
I'm not gonna give the details about what we were arguing about because it would be boring, and B, it would also like reveal something that we're working on.
That's true. Yeah, we're not.
I don't want to. So, we had a conversation about this thing yesterday, and I was concerned about it. Not anything with you, but just like concerned about some details that are kind of changing about something, and it's just like it was on my mind. I like went home thinking about it, and so then.
And I was in the meeting too, and I was also concerned about it in the meeting.
Right. So, I have a tendency to, like, I will just say exactly. Now you may think,
just say what happened.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, I'm just saying. I think because I think this is I think the argument is based in our differences in approach to these things. So, we were getting ready for the podcast in the wardrobe room. I was putting on a little powder. Can you tell? And I was like, I'll tell you, I'm kind of concerned about fill in the blank. And blah, 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 blah. And then what I heard from you is just like, you shouldn't be concerned about that. That's not a big deal. It's being handled. That's what you said. What I heard from you is that I don't want to get into this right now because we're about to do a podcast and I don't like to open up a can of worms before we go into performance mode, which I respect, by the way, and ended up telling you that I do respect it.
Yeah.
And I think it
got heated first.
Well, because what I said was because there was literally a moment where you said, "Well, what are you going to do about it?" Like when we were talking about the concern, and I was like, "Oh, okay, we're in that place again where what you are expecting from the conversation is if we're going to talk about something, let's talk about it, let's have a real conversation about it, and let's solve the problem." My brain doesn't work that way. My brain is just like, hey, I'm thinking this right now and I'm putting on some makeup and I'm just gonna say what's on my mind just because, hey, this is something that we're gonna have to solve eventually. I'm just thinking about it, I'm gonna talk about it.
Yeah, and you know what I'm thinking about but not talking about? This.
Right.
Like what we're about to do. Oh, we're doing this. This is the first time we've ever done this. Like I'm thinking about this. Like I'm thinking about the details of it and like, trying to perfectionize it, getting into the weeds.
And so when you got.
So I'm dabbing my face, can you tell? Mm-hmm. With some powders. So many powders, good God. Yeah, and then you
get multiple powders?
You bring up the thing and then I'm like, you know what? I realized there's a part of this. Well, remember the other conversation we had about fill in the blank that then mitigates the concern that we have that I felt like, okay, my buddy Rhett here is getting up in arms. Like he's concerned about this. I bet you he was thinking about it last night. I bet you, and this is the first thing we're talking about this morning, so it's like, he might have not slept at all. He might have been thinking about this all night. And I'm like, you know what? There's a mitigating factor about fill in the blank from another conversation. Don't you remember that? That like, I actually didn't think about it. And you were like, well, I was in the meeting, but I don't remember hearing that. And I'm like, well, I really think it's being handled.
And that was helpful information.
And I just don't think we need to worry about it. What I never said was, you know what? I'm not in the headspace to discuss this. Can we pause this? Like, I did not do that. Instead, I will own the fact that like, I was the one who escalated it. I felt like you were in an elevated state of alarm that I thought was detrimental to the task at hand, this podcast. I felt that. Now you told me that I was wrong. I respect that. So I felt like I need to protect where we were going. And so I told you something that was not a deflection or a coping mechanism, but it was an actual opinion based on facts that this is not something to be alarmed about. So basically my first communication to you was calm down, which then your response was, even though I didn't use the words calm down, your response was, well, listen, you telling me to calm down is...
That's the only thing I'm upset about, because I actually wasn't.
Made you mad.
I wasn't.
That made you mad.
Yeah, because I wasn't upset.
Never in the history, you know the saying, in the history of calm down
doesn't calm anybody
has telling somebody to calm down got them to calm down. And that really set you off. So then all of a sudden you were at the place that I was trying to get you to not be because of what I said. And then I'm like, oh God, now you're mad at me? And then I'm mad at you because you're mad at me because I'm doing.
I think some spittle just went in my eyeball right now.
Listen, don't play the victim.
Well, it just happened.
Don't play the victim. You're mad at me because I'm trying to protect, I'm trying to put you at ease. I'm trying to calm you down.
And so
I don't need to be calmed down, you say?
The lesson learned for me, which.
No, but what was the next step? That's not the end of the fight. People want to know about the fight.
I simply said.
When did the arm wrestling come into it?
Well, I simply said.
There was no arm wrestling.
I mean, first of all, I said that I was like.
At that point, you were mad.
Well,
and then I was like, I know I have a look on my face that I'm also very mad and I can't hide it.
No, and what I said was, this feels like what happens not infrequently, which is just like, you're getting on the track of, hey, I'm about to do the podcast, and I'm on that track right now, and I have reconciled the particular concern that you're bringing up, and I've put it in a place in my brain that minimizes my anxiety related.
I've compartmentalized something that could bring me anxiety.
And you are trying to open the compartment right before I go and do something where I want to be in a certain mind space. And so I was like, and this is what I say now, I respect that because that's not how my brain works. So I forget sometimes because I'm not thinking about it. Because again, I'm thinking about the podcast, but I'm also thinking about the problem at the same time, kind of back and forth. And then if I was operating by myself, it would be like, okay, I can have this intense thought process and then immediately detach from it and come in here and go into performance mode.
And I don't think that's true across the board in every circumstance.
Oh yeah.
Which I referred to another one where we both agreed that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm impervious to it.
But it frustrates you when something's on your mind that we should talk about and you want to talk about it and you find yourself talking about it and then I'm putting up walls where even though I might have good reasons for why it's like I should dissolve the concern or of the subject matter, you feel like it's just a wall and saying, nope, I don't want to talk about this, and me exerting control in order to protect myself, which frustrates you because you're just like, why can't we just talk about whatever we're thinking or whatever I'm thinking, in that moment. And then I'm interpreting it as judgment that you're like, oh, so is this a low blow that I can't multitask? Huh? If I was as skilled as you are, this is nothing you're actually saying or even believing. This is something that I project on you, that like you're judging me for not being as multitask able as you are. And I'm like, well, it goes a lot deeper than that. And then I'm defensive about something you haven't even leveled at me. So then, it's really getting nasty. And that's what, I guess this might be an 8 in my mind.
Really? I felt like it was, ultimately I felt like it was healthy because.
Yeah, me too.
Because again, if I had to do it all over again, I would be like, okay, while I may like, oh, if I thought about this for a second, I'd be like, oh, if I bring this up right now, then that's a cue for Link to have a conversation that we solve the problem. That's not what I'm thinking. I'm just thinking out loud. So if I had to go back, I would be like, okay, you have this concern, but we're about to do a podcast. Don't bring it up. Wait until there's another moment. But
and you turned the conversation to that in the moment, which, you know what? I appreciate that. I think that's when it started to dissolve a little bit. I think the only thing I did was to try to settle things was I was like, if I thought that you were alarmed and I thought there wasn't a need for alarm for concrete reasons that I told you. So I wasn't just trying to give you an empty calm down, but I know that's infuriating. So I'm sorry that my message came across that way. But if I had to do it over again, what I would have done is, because I would have said, like I said, now's not a good time for me to engage in this problem. I do have concerns about it, but I don't think I'm as concerned as you are, but I don't want to be. So let's table this conversation. Mm-hmm. And I would just ask, could we do that? Because I also don't expect for you to just be walking around on eggshells with everything you think, trying to anticipate if it's a good time for Link to be able to handle it. It's like, I don't want to be that guy, and I don't think it's fair for you to have to, the onus isn't on you. I would say it's a nice 50-50. So I think if we both redid what we said, then that would have been a beautiful thing. I think, and I do acknowledge that if we would have done that, you might have been the one that experienced more frustration than me, which is interesting. Taking one for the team.
If I had brought it up and you said, I don't want to talk about this right now.
Yeah, and you'd been like, and then if you would have just been like, okay, you would have experienced a little bit of frustration, but I wouldn't have. So it's not about right or wrong. It's not about like who's got skills that the other one doesn't have, or, So I feel good about it now. And you'll feel good about it when you get more clarity, when we actually talk about it some more.
Yeah, but I think this is good because it's a reminder to not, again, I don't think it's a walking on eggshells thing necessarily, but I know that I have a tendency to, because this is the way, if you were just to isolate the conversation in my brain, apart from anybody that I'm talking to, it would be like, so many disparate thoughts popping into my brain at all. I probably have some form of mild ADHD. I don't know. I've never been diagnosed, and I don't want to take that from somebody who actually has it. But
that's not how ADHD works. There's not like
there's
a
only
certain number of people.
I mean, I don't want to, belittle someone's experience because I have a family full of people with ADHD. But, and so, yeah, it's just a reminder that it's just like, okay, I can't bring, because I'm not saying
that you're the problem.
Because you just characterized it as, oh, you think you've got skills. You didn't say that, but you said that's where your mind could go, is that you think you've got an ability that I don't have. I don't see it as, because technically multitasking is not a real thing, right? Like you actually can't do two things at once. But there's a switching between things very quickly that people, I don't know, if you have a brain like mine, whether it's ADHD or not, like switching between things very quickly is just the way that your mind works. But that becomes difficult when you're interacting with someone whose brain doesn't work in that way, and you're doing like 12 different things, and it requires like certain emotional readiness to like do something like this. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's just I wouldn't say it's a frustration to bring it up and then be told that. It's just more of a reminder. It's like, oh, okay, yes, we'll have an opportunity to talk about that at another time. So I'm sorry for bringing it up when I did.
Well, I don't feel like I should forgive you because I feel like it was, well, I appreciate the apology. I forgive you as much as you need forgiveness, whatever that means. I need to be sorry for something now.
You already apologized.
For what?
For I can't remember exactly.